Good evening. I would like to call to order the Seaford Board of Education meeting for September 19th to order. And the time is 6 p.m. And I would like to welcome everybody that we have here tonight for our meeting. We've got a nice crowd. Everybody, there are a few extra seats down here if you want to sit down, but if you're okay, it's fine. So welcome, and we'll get started. We have a lot on our business to take care of tonight, so we need to get started. All right, first thing you'll notice about the agenda that there was items 7.10 through 7.15 that had to be added after the agenda was first posted. So to approve the agenda, the recommended action is to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair, Saturday, I move we accept the agenda as presented.
Kim Hopkins, that's second.
It's been moved and second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, if you could, let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's take that. Thank you. Next item is approval of minutes, point 4.04. That would be the minutes for August the 15th board meeting. Mr. Savage, you were not present, so I will not vote on these. So the recommended action is to approve the minutes for the August 15th, 2022 board meeting.
This is Kim Hopkins, I move that we approve the minutes from the August 15th, 2022 board meeting.
Marcus, try that second.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes for the August 15th, 2022 board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 5.01 is public participation. I've been informed of Mrs. Anthony that we have no blue forms for public participation, so we will move on. Moving to reports and presentations, 6.01, awards and presentations. We are going to present some awards and notations for some spring athletic. And I'll turn that over to Dr. Mitchell.
All right, well, thank you. Good evening. We didn't have an opportunity to recognize some of our spring sport athletes. So we're going to do that this evening. And we're going to start with our softball team. And Coach Q, thank you very much for putting this together for us tonight. So when I call your name, if you're here, if you can just come up, we'll give you a certificate and you'll be able to get your picture taken. So first team all conference goes to Sage Larimore.
Congratulations.
Can we do one and do all of them together? Yeah.
Sure.
Second team all conference goes to Jordan Evans. Second team all conference, Shay Cooper. Congratulations. Second team all conference, Ayana Bennett. And honorable mention all conference, Lily Larimore. Now we're gonna get all the whole softball team on. No pictures. Put this stuff on Instagram. Yeah. There's so many things, kids on, I don't even know what it is. Right. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Goldie.
Moving on to our baseball team, first team all conference, Sean Martinez. Honorable mention all conference, Jude Dean. You want to get voted? Yep. Yep. Get your start. Let's go. I'd just like to thank all the athletes, coaches, parents for everything you've done. Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it. Keep up the hard work. Thank you. I think we've done that before, quick, and now.
Yeah. I know the routine.
They did.
I'm like, that.
We were fine.
All right, our next report will be Superintendent of Communications. I'll turn it over to Dr. Nick.
All right. Good evening. This is our 16th day of school for our students. Currently, the district has about 3,500 students enrolled. So this is a very important time frame for the school district. Mr. Cameron is working very closely with our school principals on our unit count. Because at the end of the month, that's when the district has its final unit count, which determines staffing, et cetera. So the same thing with every start of the school year, there's always some kinks you got to work out. One that seems to have settled down is our traffic patterns. I know we changed some traffic patterns at the high school and middle school, but even at our elementary schools in the beginning of the year, we have a lot of parents dropping off. And just once everyone gets used to the routine, things tend to settle down a bit. Our sports are off and running, and Coach Q left, but our football team is 3-0, which is very exciting. I know our softball team was in action. They had some close games so far. Volleyball team's been in action, field hockey team. So we're really happy to see our athletes out there competing, practicing each day. Just a reminder for the board, homecoming is this Friday. We play Polytech. Game is at 7 o'clock. Parade will start at 6 and line up if the board 5 o'clock, 5:45, you're giving me hand signals. 5:45. 5:45 for our lineup. That's the time we need to be ready to go. Am I correct?
You can be there at 5.
Okay.
Make sure you're there at 5. Great step forward.
So one thing I wanted to let the board know was that the district was awarded some reimagining grants from the Department of Education in the amount of $596,000. Those grants are going to be used throughout the district for trainings for our staff as well as curriculum materials. I'm sure some of you may have seen that in some local papers, so we're excited about that. On September the 2nd, on an in-service day, our district level crisis team met. And during that time, Mr. Zoll actually went to a reunification meeting that the state put on through DEMA. He shared a lot of the details learned there. And this is something you'll hear more about in his presentation, but safety and security is something that the district is really focusing in on this year. And I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but that'll be a big part of what we discuss. So they're the updates I have for the board.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, the next item is board communications. Tonight, I just have one thing I want to bring to your attention. I attended the Delmar School Boards Association meeting for the Board of Directors on September the 7th. Just want to highlight a few things that was mentioned there at that meeting. First of all, we had a corporate sponsor to join us that evening. That was NWEA representatives joined us to share with their products and services they are currently and potentially are able to provide to Delaware school districts. The reps mentioned that a lunch and learn is scheduled for October the 22nd. 2022 at Brandywine School District, and I turned information into Dr. Nicholas. If anyone in our district, I think we have used that corporation before. So at the meeting, we had a quorum for the business meeting. Dr. Manor-Nietzsche briefly explained to new members that are on the board of directors that we are not open to public. So we don't follow the meeting laws for that meeting. Then we adopted the agenda and we approved the previous minutes from June the 8th. Then we had the Treasury Report. Everything was fine there. Dr. Manor-Nietzsche reported that we had to fall back on our supplementary budget, our secondary budget, I should say, that we had, anticipating that Ray Clay would not be joining us this year. So there's some dues that won't be coming into the organization, but we had our budget planned for that. So in case that happened, I'm sorry to say it did. Then John went over the annual report and reviewed some of the bills that were able to get through the General Assembly. Then we had committee reports. John gave his executive director's report, and there was no legislative committee report because we didn't have a meeting that this was just starting the new year. Under old business, John reviewed and reported about the boot camp and also the August DSBA picnic that was well attended in both of those events. Under new business, President Ackman reported that due to the withdrawal of Red Clay from the board of DSBA, that we needed a new second vice president. So we opened the floor for nominations, and there are two nominations, Brent Nichols from Laurel and Marcel Hayes from Sussex Tech. And we will vote on that election at our next meeting in November. And then in other business, President Ackman asked about the districts, how they were doing. Everybody was said that the discussion was about teacher and bus shortages, of course, which is generally the case in all districts. Matt Burrows, Dr. Matt Burrows gave the superintendent's report and said that he will be seeking more influential role and hopefully impact on the upcoming legislation session, trying to get other things that we need to see happen. Then in round talk discussion, there was three topics that was discussed in some length. One was dealing with school bell times. The other one was constables and SROs. And the other one was minor cap and major cap improvement funds and programs. And we adjourned that meeting at 8:35, and the next meeting for the board of directors will be November the 2nd. Anybody have any questions? Takes care of that. Just a reminder, remember that this weekend is homecoming, and we all be at the parade for that at 6, for 6 o'clock, be there at 5:45. as mentioned. All right, next item is 6.04, the AEP policy discussion, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Henry.
It's right there in the.
All right, guys, this is following up on a couple previous meetings that we've had on this. And what we did is thanks to Chandra, she reached out to bring back her. I think this picture turned out a little bit better. So the first document we got is a Word document, and that's what's actually worded on it. So you guys can, prove that. I think we approved it. So it should be perfect. If not, definitely let me know. All right. Option one is basically the 3 of them right in front of the building. The only thing I don't like about this one is faded looking a little bit, but it is a good picture of the 3 in front. Can next. Option 2 is the 3 of them at the corner. I think I like this picture. It's the 3 of them at the corner of the wall and the library, basically where the library comes out. And there's option 3, which looks a lot like option 2. Just a little bit of difference in the way they're standing. So we'll need to approve which option you guys choose. At the end of the Campbell. And then the placement of the flags would be out in the lobby area, right beside the media center. It's out there to the right, and Sean helped me figure that location out. So, any questions or anything like that?
Yeah, could you go back to option number 1?
Yeah.
Well, all of them, really, and I understand that the goal is to have the name of the school in the picture. If it's going to be placed in Central Elementary, would it be more effective to make the people bigger? You can't then really see who they are. And I understand that we want the name of the school in it, but if the plaque is in the school, you really need to say that it's Central Elementary on the top. Would it be as effective, if not more effective, to blow it up so that the Central 3 themselves are bigger? Because right now I see Central Elementary and I see 3 people, but I can't see who they are. Is that, am I
I
being
do
clear?
understand. I think we'll have to get another, get them back here again, Sandra.
Well, I mean, if it's, no, they don't need to take another picture, if they can just, I mean, that picture was only in
Oh,
the
yeah.
software, they can blow the picture up.
I'll ask Dina, so you're saying you're okay losing the.
I am, I mean, but it's not the phone.
No, but it's, yeah, but
I think
losing,
that's redundant to have the name of the school be prominent and you can't see the people who the
Right.
plaque is about. in the picture.
right. So kind of enlarge the people.
Yeah, and
Let
they
the
can
building
do
be.
that without.
Okay.
If they just have their phones.
Is there a larger version of those plaques that you sent us to? Or am I imagining?
We did the
Side.
horizontal and the vertical.
We did it landscape and then we.
I thought there was a larger.
No, those are the 3.
The picture was smaller before me, so also another version.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out to Dina on that.
Thank you.
But is that centered like that is what we're looking for, or the second one where it's off to the side? You guys have any discussion on that?
I think the second one's better because like when you're looking at the contrast with the windows and everything like that, it's just a little harder to, I think that it's a little more clear when you're looking at the people.
So as far as the options, I think options two then.
You can change the contract picture with the right software. I mean, let's say, I'm pretty sure they have professional software.
Right.
They can change the contract of any of them. I just think that having the people front and center and put, I mean, and prominent in the image would make more sense to me. It's right now, you can't tell who they are. And the point of the whole thing is just who they are.
Right. All right, so if I get those, I'll just email those to you guys and then
So we'll hold off on voting.
I think if you guys are okay, we can.
So
go ahead
which
and
one are we-
approve the option that we want to do, and then I'll get them to finalize
Which option was it now? Oh,
option two,
option two.
and then I'll just get them to finalize.
Was option one.
It was option one, with that contract.
Okay, okay,
My recommendation is to get them redone
Yeah,
okay.
and just to be able to present again, so we're 100% sure.
yeah, I agree.
So it's my understanding, what's wrong with option one? So I thought option one.
It's the, if we have the contracts that are already up here, they can fix that. So,
Option two and three, the background is showing to be darker. So if we darken up the
Darken up
background, number one, then we're okay.
Okay, so I'll just change the contrast on one and then get them all in bars a little bit, and then we'll go. Okay.
All right. Is that okay?
That work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henry.
Thank you.
All right, the next presentation, 6.05, is the GREAT GREAT program, and I will turn the floor over to Chief Marshall Pratt. And Joe,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
If I could just address the board and give you copies of this.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. I am Detective Manolo with the Senior Police Department. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to present to you the GREAT program. I am the loan instructor for the GREAT program for now. And then hopefully we get more as we move forward with this program. Okay, so the overview of this program is what is it about, what's the GREAT program, the goals, how it works, and how it combines within the classroom. Also, it talks about great success, operational costs, and funding. So what does the GREAT program stand for? It means Game Resistance Education and Training. Just to be clear, this is not an intervention program, so this is not for juveniles that are delinquent and anything like that. It would be presented in a school classroom setting, so it would be for everyone. So this is a prevention program. Again, this is a prevention program, not an intervention program. It is evidence-based prevention program to prevent youth violence, delinquency, and gang membership. I'm not saying that Seaford has a gang problem. Honestly, Delaware by state law, it said any youth that are in any groups of youth that are 3 or more engaged in criminal activity. It could be drug related, misdemeanor, or felony. And the program is also for law enforcement to come into the school to have better engagement in relationship with the kids that are in the school. So it teach about life skills, like competencies, violence prevention, and decision making and problem I did already explain that, I don't say that Seabird has a problem, but I'm just going with. Sometimes they get in trouble and they're in the fine same line, whether it's a prank or it could be misdemeanor or felony. How does grade improve communities? It fosters collaboration between all agencies, to include law enforcement, the schools, girls and boys clubs. So there's actually, I'm gonna go out of so I'm trying to put everything in, it's like a 20-minute presentation. But it focuses on these three things. The slogan is choose to be great. And the vision is to build a safer community, one child at a time. We can't touch everybody's lives, but I know every person can touch one child, and that one child will touch another person, and it will go forward from that. And our mission is to prevent youth crime, violence, gang involvement, and I know it's not on our presentation, but as well as drug use. Yep, so like I said earlier, these are the skill areas, so there are actually 4 components to this. I am certified to teach the elementary program, the middle school program, and the summer program. There's another 4th component, which would be family. I have to go back to get another training for that, that way we can cater to family. Yep, so those are all the skills. Okay, so for the 2 main ones, which is the elementary, we can move forward all the way to slide 18. I don't know. Oh, thank you. Okay, so like I said, there are 4 components. The main one is the elementary and the middle school, and then there's the summer and family program. For the elementary school, there are 6 lessons. It is suggested by the grade program board to usually teach it one lesson once a week. So it would go for 6 weeks, and then they're gonna have a whole graduation. They will be provided handbooks. They're also going to be provided letters to the parents. That way the parents are informed of what the grade program is and how it is incorporated within the school, as well as to include law enforcement. So this would be the 6 skills that we are teaching for those 6 weeks: decision making, communicating clearly, recognizing and controlling anger, preventing bullying behaviors, respecting others, and being a great citizen in the community. There is the other main one, which is to go back to the elementary school component. So it's ideally taught to 4th graders and 5th graders. Now, the middle school component is going to be 13 lessons. Same with the elementary school. It is ideal to teach it once per week. Schedule depending on how the schedule is. I know there's school breaks and holidays that we have to think about too. So it's ideally taught in the 6th and 7th grade. It could be taught in the 8th grade, but the grade program is trying to get children to be more involved as far as the skill building areas at a much younger age. And these are all of the topics that are taught for the middle school component. These are just examples of how it is projects that are done in school as far as the grade program is taught. Okay, so the summer component, it's more so during the summertime because the kids are out. So it is and incorporate the same idea, the great concepts, provide positive activities for you during the summertime instead of just staying at home, being bored, hanging out, and then getting themselves in trouble. So it also is more, it's like a field trip type of thing, so you get to do different types, like go to, well, depending on how the school curriculum is allowed to do it. We can take them and see their, let them see what's outside of school, like a field trip, and then have them learn all of this, great concept in it. Okay, so the family, I'm not gonna go over that for now, since I can't touch that right now. Unfortunately, I would love to, because I think that even if we teach the kids these, if the parents are not on board with the same idea, it would be hard for them because they always go back to the house. But I am trying to get in touch with a few more instructors that are from different law enforcement agencies. I know one personally from Dover PD, and he's helping me out with, you know, getting everything situated as far as trying to get here in Seaford. So we can, if I am unavailable, we can get an instructor from there or someone else that is also certified to teach the program. So this is actually great, you know, it's, but how does grade fit into the classroom? So it will be taught within school hours. So I'm not taking that time outside of school, especially for the teachers, because the teachers has to be inside the classroom as well. It could be used for extra credit. There are also extended teacher activities that are reinforced into the program, which would help out with probably lesson planning if you're having a writer's block with what activity can I put into my lesson plan for a certain week. You can pick and choose whichever it is. There is going to be an extended teacher activity that will also be provided for the teachers, so that would help out. And then just down at the work, deep for the recommendation, we can teach during social studies or health class, but as a classroom. So, you know, like when P and there's two other classrooms combined, it's not ideal for that setting. The brochures that I provided, I'm not gonna go and bore you with stats history, but so early 1991, this is a program that was established by the local police agency, municipal police agency. From there, ATF picked up on it because it's a great program. ATF is actually a federal agency and they provided with all the funding. So they realized that it actually works for kids. So they went and made it bigger. This one is actually also taught in Central America, not just in the US. So this is big. And then from there, ATF and OJJP, the juvenile probation, carrying on. So it's not just the one municipal agency. ATF and OJJP actually said, hey, we wanted this. We're gonna make it bigger. We're gonna provide the funding. So they did a lot of testing from 1999 to 2000, and then from there, that research, they said we have to get it in line with the school curriculum. That way, that they can also be integrated to the school standards. So which is now what we are using when we teach this program. Yep, so that is the percent rate. Like I said, we can't touch everyone, but we can always, you know, help one child at a time. Okay. Use for positive attitudes. towards law enforcement, like positive attitudes about gangs. The about gangs, like I said, it's just to go away from groups that are, involved in, I would say, criminal activity. So it's trying to give them a better option, especially during the summertime. A lot of kids, when they're bored, like, okay, let's just do this. But if we give them an option that there's something else, something better that they can do, they would be bored. Like that. Okay, less anger, is there research showing success? Yes, it's showing less anger, high levels of altruism, less risk seeking, and lower risk giving. I could speak on less risk seeking. It's kids wanting to look up to someone that they can copy. Their kids, so they look up to someone that they can copy. If we are a positive role model that they can look up to, great. But if we don't offer that to them, then there's no other things besides the ones that they used to. This is for the elementary and middle school components. It's just time and classroom materials. So the materials that are used for here are actually free at no cost. It's just shipping cost, but it's like $20. One is $17. That's gonna be for the materials that are used in elementary school, and then the one in the middle school is like $20. Now, what's great about it, because it's free, is if we can use tablets that I think we are already providing our students, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not 100% sure. So if we are providing tablets to each student, they can actually download this. It's a PDF file that they can fill out, so we don't even have to pay for the shipping costs. Yep. It's more about me. So actually for the training, I have to do the online part, and then that's the first part, and then the second part would be a week-long training face-to-face for me to get ready for this program. It is, like I said, no cost to the agency or school, but if we do get people, especially for the summer program, to sponsor, it would actually be helpful because we can provide the cost for field trips or activities that we do during the summertime, and even food and drinks for them. Yep, so that, yeah, the OJT and the ATF that I was talking about. Addresses the behaviors, which is, it also covers bullying, delinquency, violence, and drug use. We're not talking about the national trend of gangs where Crips and Bloods and all that. We're not addressing that in the classroom. We're not even gonna use those names. It's just a group of 3 or more people that are engaged in a criminal activity. Okay? Yep. Yeah, those are small pictures of. Again, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Just so the board's aware, we're looking to actually pilot some of this work at Frederick Douglass and fifth grade, and also at our middle school. So I know that Mr. Cave and Mrs. Lovely, we had an initial conversation here in the boardroom to learn about this. And we're looking at this as a good partnership between the district as well as with CPD.
How long is the session?
45 minutes to an hour. It doesn't go over an hour. Ideally, because the kids, they get bored if you go and teach them something that's good. I'm sorry, I was a teacher, so I knew they get bored. Some people, some kids, they have a 10-minute attention span. So each session is 45 minutes to an hour.
And how are the students chosen?
They're not chosen, so we're not picking and choosing which kid. It's the whole classroom. So whichever kids are in that classroom, if you ideally have 20 to 25 students or more, that one classroom will be included in the class.
So I guess, well, how's the class chosen? Are you doing each classroom by the whole school?
Okay, so I did have a meeting with the elementary principal, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, and Mr. Nicholas, the elementary principal, and then the middle school principal. So they would be assigning me a classroom to start with, because I am not full-time doing this program. We're trying to do at least 1 or 2 class for 6 weeks for elementary and then 13 weeks for middle school, depending on my schedule as well, because I have audit duties with the police department.
And if I'm correct, there's also communication that will be going home to families to make them aware.
Yes, so everything will be provided, handbooks, extended teacher activities, and most especially letters to the parents. So they will be informed that, hey, we have a police officer coming into the school teaching this program, and it's gonna run for 6 weeks or 13 weeks, depending on whether their kids are in middle school or elementary.
You said it's fourth and fifth grade. Are the curriculum different or they're learning the same material?
It's the thing, sir.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Moore. Brad?
Thank you.
Next report, presentation will be 6.06, the key priorities. And I'll turn that over to Dr. B.
Here I am. Good evening. So we will review our goals and priorities for this school year. We have the luxury of being able to stay focused on previous goals. The work continues, the team continues together. I will pull your attention to the second key priority under the first goal, that is an addition. And it speaks specifically to our renewed focus or maybe refined focus on safety and security. And this will be updating and implementing the emergency response system aligned with state goals and partnerships. Obviously, we have an emergency response system, but with everything that's happened nationally, you know, it's not even the last 6 months, the last year, just making sure that we're staying current, that we're taking advantage of partnerships that are being offered through the state resources. Dr. McLiss mentioned about the reunification training. And there seems to be a kind of a constant stream of those sorts of offers coming our way. And then just trying to figure out what we can tap into in order to serve the purposes of the district. As we continue down, we will continue with professional development. Of course, you know, we are focused on the after effects of the pandemic, school closures, and what does that mean for students. But just making sure that we're always pushing, that we have high expectations, and that while we respect that there was an impact, it doesn't mean that we let our foot off the gas. The systematic approach to creating and evaluating policies and programs. If you recall, last year, we had our 10-year plan for instructional technology that was looped under that, as well as the work that I was doing with preschool. And then I'll have a presentation later this evening that also follows under that umbrella. So while the goals and priorities have stayed the same, we kind of continue to layer in the projects that we're focused on. And then employing and retaining well qualified and diverse staff, that is just a constant. And we'll have updates this year, just as we have in years past.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. B. 6.07, safety and security and school constables. Mr. Lowe?
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Fine.
So part of this is we added that one priority goal, so it's going over some of this. So some of the things that we've already done, that people were doing before I got here, our visitor management system. You had a presentation on that. It allows us to monitor the building and make sure that everybody's safe coming into the building. Cameras and television, if you walk into our buildings now, I was just in Central today and noticed that all of our offices have TVs surmounted now, that secretaries can watch the cameras that are there and kind of see who's coming up to the building from the outside, and who's in there. And they are all controlled now.
No, not yet. They're not. They're still working through it yet. But eventually, yes, every front office that have cameras.
Our front entrances are all double entry, so you can't get into the building without being buzzed in, and you can't actually get into the building then without being buzzed in. And due to the new state law, Central Elementary this fall is going to be our first school that has a ballistic glass installed at that front entrance to the building. And that's going to come to every school as we do projects in the coming years. Crisis teams and drills. Dr. Nicholas mentioned we have a district-wide crisis team that meets quarterly. Our goal there is to kind of take some information from the schools that have their own crisis team and talk about best practices and things that are happening. We want to make sure everyone's up to date on what to do, obviously, in case of emergency, which goes to the drills that we still have monthly, the fire drills, and then we also have 2 intruder drills each year that we do different things, and tabletop drills where we talk about different things that possibly could happen and what our response would be. We're still partnering with the Seaford Police Department. Obviously, you saw them with the great programs they're bringing. We still have a school resource officer that serves us district-wide. Officer Wingate is still employed with us. We're using technology apps like the panic button and others that allow us to quickly notify emergency personnel if we have to. We're putting additional card readers in. We noticed that people, for whatever reason, don't like using keys on doors. So the more card readers we have in, the less doors that we have propped open. People are very willing to swipe cards to get in the building, but they're not always great at using keys. So the more we have these on doors, the easier it is to get in, and the less doors we have to worry about being propped. And then we just continue, and we just did this last Tuesday at one in Thursday, training some of our staff members in PAC 2, which is de-escalation training and restraint training for those that need it. And so we have now our first staff that is fully trained in that PAC 2 system. So those are the things that we have going on. Our goals for this year, I'll update you on what we're going to do. So we have 4 different goals. We're going to go talk about each one of them. You see them up there. Can we go to the next one? So the first one is cameras. Our elementary schools do not have any cameras right now. So one of the things we're looking at over the course of the last few weeks, Doug, myself, Patches, and then some other companies, we walk through all the elementary buildings. Right now, each of the elementary buildings only has 3 cameras. They're actually going to have 4 to 5 in a couple weeks, getting some of the new playground equipment. But we want to increase that by a lot. So in total, we walk around each school and kind of look strategically where the best spot would be to have cameras. Obviously, covering all the outside doors. The schools are big buildings and they have lots of doors and exits. So we'd like to look at cameras for all those, but also be able to then monitor always. For all 4 elementary schools, perfect scenario, we need about 50 cameras to cover all the areas of the elementary schools. And that's just to see all the doors, so you're kind of there. And some of those cameras can cover multiple entrances depending on where they're located. So that's the goal. What we walk through, and then we've had 3 companies come talk to us about cameras that they offer and how they would help us in monitoring our schools. And currently, we're getting quotes from them and just looking at the detailed costs on what it would cost to get all of the secondary schools, high school is up to date. The middle school is pretty up to date. It has some old cameras that we're working on replacing. But all the areas of those buildings are covered by cameras. We can see that at all times. Second goal is radios. So every one of our schools right now has a separate kind of radio system. When I say radio, like walkie-talkie. Our goal is to this year partner with some companies that have state contracts. And we want to look at the best radios that we can get. So that we can all talk to each other just in case of emergency. So myself, I have to go to something going on at West Seaford. I have a radio. I can just flip it to channel 5, and I know I'm at West Seaford. If I have to come back to the high school for something, I can flip it to channel 1, and I can talk to the high school. So that way we're kind of all on the same page and can talk to each other. But again, just in case something happens. So that's our goal. We're just working with some state vendors on looking at prices of what that would be. And in total, we're thinking about 140, 150 radios would cover all of our buildings, all the admin, and some of the drop personnel. So we all have radios and be able to talk to each other. State partnerships, this is the one that we've kind of talked about a couple times this evening. As Dr. McCliss said, myself, Officer Wingate, Leah Dickerson, and Doug Henry, all attended the EMA and the I Love You Guys Foundation unification training that was held a few weeks ago. We've already, because of this, updated our language in our emergency response guides and pushed this language out to all building personnel. We were kind of using an antiquated like code red, code yellow, code green system, but that is not in best practices with the state. So we changed all that and updated that language. And then I'm in the process right now, obviously with the other people that went to the meeting, in writing a reunification plan that we're going to present to the district in November. To talk about what it would take if we truly had a big emergency and had to get our students off campus, what it would look like to unify everyone with their parents. So that is being written right now. And then throughout the rest of the year, our goal is to continue to update our staff in those quarterly district meetings and asking schools to talk to staff monthly just about emergency responses and what you can do in case of X, Y, or Z. And the final thing I want to talk about is school constables. So I'm sure you've seen this from other parts of the state. A lot of schools are going into this and looking at constables as a way to kind of enhance their safety procedures. So we've asked the state for approval. There's a meeting in October. Anyone who wants to use constables has to petition the state to actually be a part of that program. And that meeting is not the end of October. So we've already put that allocation in for us to be able to have constables in our district and utilize them as safety officer. Our goals for constables and what we kind of want them to do are listed here. I'm not going to read them to you. If you have questions in a second, you can ask. Those are kind of what the goals are. I'll take a second and can go to the next slide. And the requirements for constables are right there. And not only do we have to be approved to have constables and hire them, the constable then also has to be approved by the board of commanders by filling out an application. Have to be at least 21 years old. Our hope is that we can get them retired police officers to do this because it's a lot easier for them because there are a lot of training. But there's yearly training firearms that they have to go through, and there is a 2-year recertification process. And then last, our long-term goal. This is kind of what Dr. Mix and I have talked about a few times. Long-term goal is to be able to have a school resource officer at our high school, and then also a school resource at the middle school, and then have 4 constables, 1 at each elementary school, just to be a part of it. Later in this meeting, you'll see there's an action item, and we're asking for the approval of the hiring of 2 constables, 1 for our middle school, and then 1 for our 4th elementary. And that's the start of that program. Any questions on the school? If you're here,
Related to the camera, if I'm referring to, did we have that contracted out before?
It's still contracted out.
It's still, okay, so it's still contracted out. So with all these installations of all the new cameras, will it still remain with Advantech?
For now,
For now?
we will look at. Yeah, we had a meeting today. I mean, Advantech, even different cameras, so Advantech doesn't just sell Advantech cameras, they sell all sorts of cameras.
Right.
We know the company today called, it was Bakata. I think it is something that Bakata was, Advantech sells those cameras and installs them. Advantech kind of has the state contract with community wire and stuff. So one of the things we want to look at is just the cost effectiveness of either sticking with Advantech for that, or is it actually more cost effective to go with another company's cameras and have them in? And part of it depends on the one we used today was all cloud based. So it wasn't actually a machine in the pool that's recording it, it's actually in the cloud. That's what we use that stage for it. So there's different things you want to look at and prices you want to get before we make a decision. Just like there's all sorts of different cameras. There's some cameras that are amazing, the detail. There's some that are 360, you can see kind of everywhere. There's some that are straight line and kind of go 2 ways, and there's some that are that's in point of view. So part of it was when we went around the buildings, there's some places that you can just have a single view camera, which is probably the cheapest, but there's some that have a 360 camera will be perfect because it would show you all 4 like all the places, you know, always. And that just keeps it from
have to put 4 different
Four
cameras,
different cameras.
like 1 camera in a spot. But to get back to what you were talking about,
Right.
like, so,
The management, I wanna know who's gonna manage all these, not the cost of the cameras itself, but who's managing by watching and seeing what's going down in the school.
right now, we have that contract with the van center, but moving forward, we're thinking like maybe constables or those guys can actually pick some of that stuff up.
Security is what I'm used
And
to.
pull that funding back into the district to help fund them also, you know what I'm saying? So, Passes, Gary and I have talked about that.
Yeah, and listen, the part of it, like advanced tech having this thing, they monitor the camera, I mean, monitor, yes, but monitor is much better than we do.
Okay,
We can pull the cameras up at any time with any of these companies that we're looking at. I mean, I can go to my operator now and pull all the cameras. And look which ones are up, which ones, if there's any that are down, you know what I mean? And look at that. I think part of that is just that we pull them up. Someone that needs to go in, we need to pull them up every day.
right.
To check if they're working.
And that's my concern, because I'm used to, like, the different cameras, which you speak of. I'm used to working with security when I was an investigator, to look at different cameras and different angles and all that great stuff. But cameras are only useful if someone's actually monitoring them.
Yes.
So, you know, so if we're pulling them up once a day, I mean, that's not, to me, that's not.
But part of it also, that's where the camera needs lobby came in. So our goal is for the daily to the secretary to have the 12, 16 cameras that are the biggest, it'd be best for those schools, have them up all the time, so they're using.
So will someone train our secretaries to,
Yes.
okay, because, you know, equipment is great, but humans are resources, and they have to be properly trained to know what they're even looking for.
Yes.
Okay, so that helps.
So like hotspot cameras, outside lobbies, stuff like that will be what was on it. So the secretary can just make eye contact every once in a while with those areas, make sure everything's okay. And I think of the high school sometimes is, you got 2 main entrances there really up front, and they'd be able to keep an eye on that second entrance where not everybody's coming in that way, you know what I'm saying? So, just stuff like that, but yeah, we definitely looked at different options moving forward of, hey, who can monitor these cameras and make sure that they're up, running, like when we need them, they're gonna be there, you know, stuff like that. So,
I will keep us posted, because I'm deeply interested.
okay. So,
For the constables, it's a statewide conversation, especially around the funding. Is there still talk about funding coming from DOE, the government?
So there is some school safety and security money that we got this year, that's what we're looking at for these two. Obviously, the goal is we hope that gets increased, yes. I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, so this year is currently, we received our allocation is about $206,000. And it was placed in the bond bill. Ideally, we would hope that that would become part of the operating bill and it would become a more permanent feature. This was something that was previously funded, and then when we got into ESSER funding and all that, all of a sudden that was eliminated. So we're hopeful that this is not one time in nature, it's ongoing, and then it gets ultimately placed as part of the governor's recommended budget in the operating bill. Yeah, there was a $10 million total appropriation statewide, $1 million went to safety and homeland security. The other 9 were spread amongst charters, school districts.
And part of the best practice is one thing we talk about that, training as well, besides education. That's one of the things we hope that FEMA pushes as well. So just grabbing.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lord. Okay, 6.08 is 504 portal. Dr. D.
I will continue that theme of providing student support, evaluating programs, making sure that we are up to par by speaking with you this evening about an online module for 504. So just a little background here, and I'll make it quick. But section 504 is the Rehabilitation Act, and it protects qualified individuals from discrimination based on their disability. So you may be thinking, well, this falls naturally under that umbrella of special education, so that's why Sharon is speaking with us. But it's actually considered more of a general ed initiative. Most districts in the state try to keep 504 separate from special ed, Special ed is an entitlement based on eligibility and a specialized instruction. 504, we commonly say that it's accommodations that allow people with disabilities to have equal access to the educational setting. So there's a little bit more about there, but basically you can't deny a person with a disability access to an educational setting or employment or receiving benefit from those things because of their disability. So relevant to school. So students, and you've heard this term, I'm sure before, could have what's called a 504 plan. And it is more than just a plan. It actually identifies what the student's disability is, how that disability impacts their major life activities, what that impact is then in school, and what is the obligation by the school to provide accommodations so that there is that equal access. In some ways, the section 504 is more of a non-discrimination kind of oversight rather than specialized supports and services. One of the major life activities is learning. Learning is a big thing there. So lots of disabilities could potentially have an impact on an individual's ability to access learning. And that happens in schools, and so we need to address it. Again, you have, it's easy to confuse and kind of confound the two of them, but you have that category of all students. Within all children, you have all children with disabilities. Not every child with a disability requires a 504, and not every child with a disability requires an IEP. But you have every child that has an IEP that is covered under IDEA also has a qualifying disability for which they could have a 504, but it comes redundant. You don't need to have 4 because any accommodations that could be provided in a 504 would also be provided through IDEA with an IEP. But I feel like that visual helps show how it kind of starts to concentrate those services. So again, more about how it's different. 504 is about access, non-discrimination. IEP is qualifying disability with specialized supports and services and accommodations. There's a higher standard with an IEP regarding a student making progress, but both 504 and IEP cover a free appropriate public education. Again, put there at the bottom. Lots of places these are kept separate. That's kind of an ivory tower perspective because in practice, you only have so many folks at the ground level in a school district, and it does align pretty closely with the same things that we're talking about in special education when it talks about eligibility and determination. And on that note, part of my job is to make sure that we're paying as much attention as possible to any room for human error to correct those things so that we don't open ourselves up that those errors have then more serious consequences. So what we've decided to do, we did a little analysis of where we were potentially making mistakes with 504 plans and what could we do better. And we saw that there was kind of a lag from school to school, from grade to grade, maybe when students came in from another district in terms of that communication regarding 504 plans. So I investigated online options for 504 plans, just like we have for IEPs. And we realized that with Power School, with the online module for IEP, that was a state initiative, we've really closed that gap in terms of being able to monitor dates, track evaluation dates, making sure the right people are invited to meetings. And we discovered that there's a similar module through Power School that also does 504 plans. So we decided to make an investment in the online module for 504s, seamless through eSchool and Power School, just like IEP Plus is, has the same kind of account coordinator, creation, invite the folks, the documentation. You can go to the next slide. And, we have already had, we've opened up the contract, we've had our training for our 504 coordinators. And, you know, I feel thankful too, because Judy Hastings, who used to be a special education coordinator, and then I couldn't tap into her services anymore with that, is now as an assistant principal, one of the 504 coordinators. So most of the time at the school level, the 504 coordinators are assistant principals, sometimes it's a school counselor, again, to help differentiate from special education. But because the modules are so similar, she's already an expert with the 504s, because it looks almost exactly like IEPs. So I asked you to come, we've attended the training, anything already as a win for 504, I'll give you a chance to speak.
I think the fact that it's all in one platform and it's not, or we will not be relying on files only to be transferred from building to building, or for when a kid withdraws or re-enters our school district. That's all going to be tracked, and it will be, if a student leaves us and goes to a neighboring or even out of state district, when they come back in, it'll be flagged, just like if a student that receives special education services leaves our district and comes back. So the fact that all the materials, all their eligibility information, everything is in one spot and not based on a file folder or, you know, like, it just is, keeps it all concise.
Because I think our greatest fear is, you know, when you get that call of like, does my child's teacher know that they have a 504, and how do I know that they know? And this gives us a way of making sure that that everyone's accountable. So this is just for information. Any questions about that 504s in general or the module? Honestly, we're the first in the state to adopt this online module for 504s through Power School. This
That was
is
my question.
an investment by Secret School District, because it just felt like the right thing to do.
So we're the first to adopt it. Are there other schools who are considering it that you know of?
Not that
It would
I-
be great if it was like Ivy Plus everywhere.
Not that I know of. I actually called our liaison to ask if anybody else was using an online module when I started researching it. And the answer was kind of like, well, Specialized doesn't handle 504s. Okay, who handles 504s? Wasn't, yeah, so we just moved ahead in the solution that made more sense to us since there was not a state sponsored solution.
And I think the questions that we've had are I don't even want to say issues, because it was like as we were building them, that came up with DOE. I don't think anyone else in the state was looking at this because of the questions we were asking.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to the agenda, the action items. And bear with me, we have quite a few of those tonight. 7.01 is school choice. There are 4 applications for school choice in the agenda. If there's no questions about those, motion or recommended action is to approve the school choice applications 2022-23-32 through 2022-23-35.
This is Jeff Benson. I make a motion that we approve the school choice applications 2022-23-32 through 2022-23-35. That's
Marcus, right, a second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the school choice applications 2022-23-32 through 2022-23-35. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Seven point oh two is field trips. We have no agenda for that. There's no items. We'll move on to 7.03. Mr. Donovan. Where did they come from?
Here.
No, I got it here.
They're not on.
They're not online.
There was no document put in on board docs,
Right.
what I didn't know about. All right, I'll back up, my mistake. Field trips, there are two. Wades Elementary and Seaford Middle School. Do you have those in front of you? Is there any questions?
I have a question. It says teacher middle school, but it says second grade, which school is it?
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't think middle school. So it's the drama club. The middle school drama club. It says second grade.
It also says 2019.
So who's going?
That's why I didn't see these, I didn't review this. And then you guys are here doing this.
Somebody's going to do this.
Or it's not that, but it was.
Or they went.
The late elementary is a trip that is to JC Farms in Fellsburg. They have 3 classes going each date, one on October 20th and one on October 27th. The middle school is the drama club, who is requesting to take a trip to New York to see Aladdin on Broadway. It's on Saturday, February 4th. They'll be leaving at 8 a.m. and returning at 9:30 p.m. and it's approximately 20 students. The Broadway show is about 2 hours and 30 minutes long.
Excuse me, where did you say that would be? Is that New York or?
It's in New York. They're going to Aladdin on Broadway in New York.
They're doing Aladdin this year. It's the musical.
Okay, thanks for that.
All right, thank you. So we have 2 field trips on the agenda. One for Blades Elementary and one for the, which is the kindergarten classes, is that correct?
Yes.
Good. And Seaford Middle School, the drama club. with
It
20
is
students.
on Saturday. It's not a school day.
And what date was that?
It's Saturday, February 4th.
February 4th. Okay. So do we understand what the 2 are?
Yes.
So
Sorry.
This is Kim Hopkins. I moved that we approve the field trip agenda with the updates.
Isn't there a second?
Been moved and second to approve the field trip agenda with the updates. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now, 7.03 facilities request. There are 3 facilities requests on the agenda. One for Special Olympics, one for Delaware State University, and one for Delaware Breast Cancer Coalition. Any questions? No questions. Recommended action is to approve the facilities request agenda as presented.
This is Marcus Wright. I move that we approve the facilities request agenda as presented.
Been moved and second to approve the facilities request agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, the next one is the AEP policy. That's the plaque. Recommended action is to approve the signage for the Central Elementary.
We're gonna put it on the table.
Good table.
That's what we discussed tonight.
AEP.
Yeah.
We said we we're gonna still move.
Now we gotta bring new ones.
Okay. Excuse me. 7.05 is the athletic ticket prices, so. I believe that deals with, something about the, online, and I'll turn that over to Megan.
So the prices for adults and students for cash are not changing from the votes that were taken in July of 2022. However, you'll see the second asterisk, there's a convenience charge of 25 cents per ticket when paying with a credit card. What we would like to do, and we work with athletics about this, is to purchase a square and to bring it and start with the football and then potentially move into basketball and other sports. And to allow the opportunity for people to pay with credit card if they don't have cash on them. But because there is a convenience charge, we have to basically have to tax the consumer.
Well, we have multiple ones, specifically say with basketball, because I know last year, but yeah.
So we were gonna originally start out with one. We are looking right now based on the cost of doing two immediately right away. The plan would be also that long-term, we could look into, doing a pop-up where we're selling, merchandise and all that sort of stuff. But right now, the focus is on hopefully trying to get it even before the Friday football game, if this is passed tonight.
Cool.
Any other questions? Recommended action is to approve the updated athletic ticket prices as presented.
Second, motion that we approve the updated athletic ticket prices as presented.
Karen Savage, on second.
It's been moved and second to approve the updated athletic ticket prices as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Scholastic donation. I'll turn that back over to Megan.
Good evening. So Seaford School District, specifically Blaze Elementary, was approached by Scholastic Book to receive a donation valued at approximately $16,000. They would do a fully funded, and by the way, there isn't paper or anything for them. They would do a fully funded book fair, which would take place towards the middle or early spring. And each student would receive 3 books as well as an additional 350 books to the school. Blaze was selected. It is the only school in the county, and it was collected based upon the percentage of Title I and also either not having in the past a book fair or having a very low revenue book fair. So there's 3 schools selected statewide. So this is a great opportunity, and based upon the threshold being over $10,000, that's why we are bringing forward Tuesday.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Recommended action is to approve the plastic donation as presented.
This is Karen Savage, I move we accept the scholastic donation as presented.
Kim Hopkins, a second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the plastic donation as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item is 7.07. Key priorities, we already have discussed that. Recommended action is to approve the key priorities as presented.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the key priorities as presented.
Jeff Benson, second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the key priorities as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.08, school constables. We've already had a discussion on that in the presentation. Recommended action, excuse me, is to approve the hiring of school constables.
This is Marcus Ryder. Move that we approve the hiring of school constables.
Jeff Benson. Jeff Benson, second. Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hiring of school constables. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Seven point oh nine is the RFP for Central Elementary renovations change orders. I will turn that over to Mr. Henry.
Actually, Mr. Paul, I think it's the RFP for the I can't say that. Yes, it is. Yes, sorry about that. I was way ahead of myself. The change orders on that. So I have Ken Fern here from Vertical and Daniel, which ran that project for us. So basically, we have some funding left. And we have some change orders to basically for some masonry repairs and stuff like that. That's kind of happened since the initial assessment. The kind of that we found during the process to do those change orders. We wanted to bring them to the board and get them approved because we got the initial project approved. So anybody have, I sent you, you guys one of these to review. They got any questions on any of them? Or
It's not costing to the.
I mean, it's money that's already there.
Right.
Yeah, that's already allocated. It's easy.
I have no other questions.
Yeah.
Then the recommended action is to approve the RFP memo for Central Elementary School renovation change orders as presented.
This is Sarah Savage. I move that we approve the RFP for the central renovation changes as presented.
Tim Hopkins, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the RFP Central Elementary School renovation change orders as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.10 is an RFP for Frederick Douglass Elementary School mechanical renovations. We all have copies of that. Do we need to say any more, Mr. Henry? on
It's just the ESSER HVAC project is basically what we're looking out for now. To go ahead and award those contracts so we can get started on that work. And as you know, I've mentioned it before, Central's a boiler and chiller. The good thing is, we were able to get the funding to work for us and do some demo that's muchly needed, because before we've abandoned a lot of stuff in place inside the mechanical rooms and stuff like that. Before we're moving something, piping, old tanks and stuff like that to open our boiler rooms up a little bit and make them more accessible around the equipment and stuff like that. So Central is getting a boiler chiller combo. Fred Douglass will be getting a boiler only just because the chiller's still been recommended years of life left on it. And then West Steeper will be getting a chiller. Blaze will be getting a chiller with the alternates. High school will be getting a chiller, and the middle school will be getting a chiller with alternates.
So you have covered what each one of these pertain to on the 6 buildings,
Yes.
4 elementaries and the high school and the middle school.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions on it? Does everyone understand that? Because I'm just going to move right through.
Yep.
Each one of these. We have to vote on each one of these separate. Okay? Seven point 10 is the RFP for Frederick Douglass Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented.
This is Marcus McBride. I move that we approve the RFP for Frederick Douglass Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented.
Tim Hopkins, I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the RFP for Frederick Douglass Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.11 is recommended action is to approve the RFP for Blaze Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented.
This is Sarah Savage. I move we approve the RFP for Blaze Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented.
Tim Hopkins, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the RFP for Blaze Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.12 is the RFP for West Seaford. Recommended action is to approve the RFP for West Seaford Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the RFP for West Seaford Elementary School for mechanical renovations as presented.
Sarah Savage, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the RFP West Seaford Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.13 is the RFP for Central Elementary. Our recommended action is to approve the RFP for Central Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented.
This is Marcus Pratt. I move that we approve the RFP for Central Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented.
Jeff Benson, second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the RFP for Central Elementary School mechanical renovations as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.14 is the RFP for Seaford High School. Recommended action is to approve the RFP for Seaford High School mechanical renovations as presented.
This is Jared Savage. I move we approve the RFP for super high school mechanical renovations as presented.
Kim Hopkins, a second.
We move in second to approve the RFP for Seaford High School mechanical renovations as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.15 is the RFP for the Seaford Middle School. Our recommended action is to approve the RFP for Seaford Middle School mechanical renovations as presented.
Kim Hopkins, I move that we approve the RFP for Seaford Middle School mechanical renovations as presented.
Jared Savage, I second.
It's been moved in second to approve the RFP for Seaford Middle School mechanical renovations as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.16, we move to financial reports, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Brennan. And I thank you guys for being on the spot today. Very well. Thank you for that.
So at the end of August, we are 16.66% of the way through the fiscal year. We've encumbered or expended an additional $1.1 million since the August meeting. Across all funds, we have expended or encumbered 27.45%. Local salaries are tracking a little bit higher than 16.99. But as I pointed out last month, we did have one of our prepaid months in the month of July, so that is to be assumed. Also, since our last meeting, both Seaford Middle and Seaford High School have encumbered and expended funds. At that point of the year, they had not spent any dollars across those schools. So moving on to tax collections, we collected $910,000 in approximately in taxes in August, which we received in the month of September. This reflects 15.26% of our 2023 tax collection. At this point last year, just as a comparison, we had collected 16%. So we're tracking about even as we did in 2022, but it is just a little bit less than what we're anticipating. So the set aside has not changed since July, and it will probably not be changing much this year. Moving into our monthly revenue report. So in state funds, the top third of the sheet, there haven't been any significant changes since August. In local funds, I do want to highlight one number. If you scroll a little bit further down, there is this break here. We have a miscellaneous grant and science. So we were awarded and received approximately $73,000 from the Delaware Department of Agriculture. This is part of the state food system program application. It was a competitive grant, and the funds will go towards improvements in the greenhouse. And what we're going to do there is we are going to grow using a hydroponic system, and then we are going to take the produce that is produced, grown in the greenhouse, and we're actually going to use it through nutrition services at the high school. So it's a food to table, school to table, sort of thing going on there. And we're also going to be utilizing some of the ag science students as workers, and they'll be compensated for their time as part of this. This was a multi-year grant, and we're really excited about this opportunity. Doug is going to, be spearheading some of the renovation, and then we hope to get this up and running. The last item I want to point out is in federal funds. And so as of August 31st, which is when these reports are to be done, we had not received any of our $3.8 million of our consolidated grant. However, late last week, we did get our $3.8 million. So that will be reflected in next month's report, but at the time it was zero.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you, Mrs. Brennan. Recommended action is to approve the monthly financial report as presented.
This is Jared Savage. I move we accept the monthly financial report as presented.
Kim Hopkins, a second.
It's been moved and second to approve the monthly financial reports as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item is long range agenda. There's 2 items which we have already mentioned. The first one, 9/23, is the homecoming parade and game. And then on October the 3rd, we'll be back in the boardroom for a public meeting. Any questions or additions?
I'm sorry. 10-3 is gonna be in the auditorium.
Is it 10-4?
It's actually 10.
But that's a public meeting. Yeah. It'll be in the auditorium.
Is it 10-3 or 10-4?
10-3.
Okay.
Yeah. We just gotta make that.
All right, I need a motion now to move on to the executive session, to enter into the executive session.
This is Marcus, right? I mean, we move into executive session.
Been moved and second to enter into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. And the time is 7:30 p.m. I thank you. Thank you.